And so we go forward with the divorce, and it's probably like January or December. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do with the kids because we're not really talking at this point. And, in doing that, we're kind of like, hey, how's things going with you? How's things going on your side? And, I'm like, well, it is what it is. I'm not seeing anyone. And she's like, well, things aren't great here. And that kind of prompted us to start talking again. And off and on, we kind of talked sporadically for the next few months. Now, the guy that she was living with, she had moved out into another house in my same neighborhood. So it's kind of like, how I'm sure it's like up here, some of the places I've seen, you've got one big community, but about 9 different subdivisions in that community. That's kind of how ours was set up. So they were in another subdivision, but same community. And he had actually left the house. So he wasn't living there at the time. And around Easter, we're like, okay, I think we're going to give it another shot. Like we had both kind of, realized that the time apart was, we did what we needed. It was time to give it another shot. And we were really serious about it. And we went to her mom's, spent Easter, and, we were just like, we told her family, this is what's going to happen. So when we come back on Friday night, and I was just like, all right, well, I'll get everything moved back in, but you got to tell, the guy, he's, this is it. There's no need. He can't come back around because they hadn't officially cut it off, but they weren't like on the best of terms either. And so when she told him this that night, I thought she was going to tell him Friday night. Saturday, we go to my son's ball game or soccer game Saturday morning. I'm like, well, how did he take it? She said, he come in and went straight to bed. I didn't get a chance to tell him. I'm going to tell him today. I said, all right. Well, unbeknownst to me, after she told him, he roughed her up, broke her phone, so I had no way to get in contact with her, smashed a lot of stuff in the house, and a lot of shit was going on that I wasn't aware of because she wasn't able to contact me. I knew she was giving him the news, but I didn't know all the stuff was taking place. So the same guy that I spoke about earlier who went into that house with me when my friend had committed suicide, he actually was outside in his garage, and they were coming by. And so he walks out and was like, hey, what's going on? And he said, well, nothing much. He said, we're looking for Chip because when I find him, I'm going to fucking kill him. And I didn't know this at the time. This was even told to the cops later, that verbatim, that's what he said. So when he knew that something was up, he was able to get the guy to stay there and talk to him and try to figure out what was going on. Well, at some point, he was able to call me. And he knew that I wasn't home because he was making my wife drive around and look for me. I wasn't home. I was at somewhere else. So when he told me, he was like, hey, if you ride by the house and you see his car here, don't stop.
Your buddy told you that?
Yeah. And at that time, the guy, that's getting the axe was over there. His name was Liam. And so he's like, if you see his car here, don't stop. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but he was pretty upset. He said he was looking for you. He said, but I'm trying to diffuse it. He's like, so I was just letting you know if you ride by, don't stop because I don't need anything going down, here in my house. I'm like, that's fine. I said, I'm not the one with the problem. He is. I know what's going on. And he didn't know that we were officially getting back together, but I knew probably why he was upset. So I'm at my house and like I'm watching a UFC. I think it was like one of the Conor McGregor fights or something like that. And I get a text from my phone and it's him. It's the guy.
This is later that night? Or?
Yeah. This right now is probably like 12:31 in the morning.
Okay.
And I get the text from him and he's like, hey, can me and you talk? Or no, at first he said, are you awake? And I was like, yeah, I'm awake. And he's like, can me and you talk? And I'm like, about what?
He texted you from your wife's phone?
No, his phone.
Okay.
His own personal phone. Because he had smashed my wife's phone. And he was like, can me and you talk? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, look, I don't want no drama. I don't want no bullshit. I don't want to fight. He's like, if you're comfortable, we can meet at Jamie's house. Jamie was the guy that, I've been speaking about that was in a lot of these situations. And I said, yeah, that's fine with me. So around the same time, my daughter actually called me because she had gotten off of work and got home. And my wife was using her phone and she was like, hey, I told him he got really mad, but he left and he's at Jamie's right now. And I said, yeah, I know. He just texted me and asked me if I would come over there and talk to him. And she's like, well, are you going to go? And I was like, well, he just wants to talk. And she's like, well, I don't know if I would go, but he is a little upset. But she said, I know you can probably handle it. And I was like, all right. Because I'm good at talking and diffusing situations. I've never been like a violent guy. I can usually talk people down. And so I go over there and that was exactly what it was. He was more or less wanting to know, had we been seeing each other prior to her telling him that it was over. And I was like, well, to start with, really, that's my wife. It's not really any of your business. But to answer your question, no, because I didn't want to get him upset and him go back over there angry. So a little bit time goes by. I mean, it was heated a little bit at first at times, but by the end of the conversation in the garage, it was really just like three dudes hanging out in the garage, but just with odd circumstances being what they were. And so it's probably, I'd say 3:30, 4 o'clock at this time. And Jamie, whose house we're at his house. He's like, man, I'm fixing to shut it down. He's like, if you want to stay here, you can stay here. He's like, or you can have Chip run you home. And he said, well, if you don't mind, he said, will you run me to the house? And I said, yeah. So we leave. And then like, as we're getting in the car, he says, I don't know if I want to go home. He said, I know we're going to argue. And he's like, do you care if we just go to your house? He said, I'm just not really ready to go home yet. And I was a little hesitant, but he started talking and telling me this story. And I don't know if he was trying to match the suicide story that had came up in the garage, the one I told you about earlier. But he started telling me about this guy he was in the service with because he was former military. And they were in combat together. And the guy got shot in the head. And he was trying to hold his head together. But something about the Army said he didn't do something right, didn't follow protocol. So he was discharged. And that's why he wore this specific bracelet on his wrist.
Was he Marine or was he Army?
I'm pretty sure he was Army. But the thing was, I didn't find this out till later, was that whole story was fabricated. He was actually intelligence. And he told the guy bad intel that led him into somewhere that resulted in that guy getting shot.
He was intelligence?
He was intelligence. He wasn't like in the field. The story he told me was like he was in the field when it happened with him, like right there, hands on. But the real story after, this was over, I found it out, a couple of days later, he was intelligence and he gave the guy bad intel that led him to getting shot. So either way, I'm sure it probably did still mess him up because he was genuinely upset about it. Like he was crying sitting in my car, like, straight up tears. So I could tell it was bothering him. I didn't know at the time whether the story was true or not, but I could tell it was bothering him. So at this point, I just think this dude's just like, maybe he's battling through that. He is getting the boot.
So he was in an intelligence branch of the Army or
like someone that would just be, telling somebody, all right, go here, go there, probably off to the side, working on a computer.
I see what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah. Just like working on a computer.
Right.
Not actually in combat, somebody more or less behind the scenes.
Okay.
So, like I said, he's crying and I'm thinking this dude just really just needs someone to talk to. It's not really nothing, concerning. I never at any point in time felt threatened at all. So we go in my house and we've got cameras and stuff in my house. So it's seen us coming in and we're in there for probably another hour or two. And we're talking about different things. We got on the subject of tattoos and he was talking about, I've got a 13-year-old son. He was like 8 or 9 at the time, but he was talking about one of his buddy's moms saying something about tattoos. And he's like, has she ever said anything to you? And I'm like, no, I'm covered in them. So I kind of like pulled down my shirt to show him this one. And you can see, and I don't know if you can see it right here, but there's a scar there where I had open heart surgery.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And I had that in 2001, my senior year in high school. That scar has been there. And when he seen that scar, he was like, damn, what happened there? He kind of pulled down the shirt and I told him the story, same story I just told you. So he pulls up my shirt from the bottom, like up to see it going all the way down. And in doing this, he had to see the gun because I was a CWP carrier. I'd had my CWP for probably a couple of years at that time. The weapon that I had on me that night was my carry weapon. I'd been pulled over that weapon numerous times. The numbers run. So there was documentation that was the gun that I would, use as my carry weapon.
What kind of gun was it?
It was a Smith & Wesson 9mm.
Okay.
And so he had to see it. I don't really see there's any way he couldn't have seen it, right there on the hip. But when he sees that scar, he's like, man, you know what? And you know how guys, when they've had a little too much to drink, they do like the bro hug or whatever, where they bear hug you and kind of pick you up off the ground. So he did that. And I didn't really think too much of it at the time. I just, I didn't really know how he was with alcohol. I knew he had some drinks at the other garage and we had a few shots at my house. So I just thought he was getting, to that point. Well, then he's like, where's your bathroom? Showing the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom. And the way my kitchen is set up, so you got a hallway here. Then when you come out, you got a refrigerator. Then it immediately curves. You got a stove. Then back this way and you got a sink. So it's pretty small. It's like 8 foot wide at the most. I'm up against the stove when he's in the bathroom. And at this time, I'm actually texting my daughter's phone, telling her, like, hey, everything's good. Let your mom know not to worry. And when he comes out of the bathroom, he goes straight up to me, hand up under my throat, jacks me up onto the stove. And, like, you know how people say, like, you know, they had that look in their eye? Like, he had that look in his eye. And
how big is this dude?
He's pretty fucking big. Like, he was a jacked up dude.
How tall would you say he was?
I'd probably say he was 6'1", maybe. Probably like 240, 250.
Okay.
I mean, he was
how
a
big
big
are
boy.
you?
Not that big. I'm probably 5'10" at the most.
Okay.
You know, weight might be the same, but for different reasons. He was muscle. and two, we'll get into this too, but at the time he was also on steroids. We figured that out later on. So when he jacks me up, he immediately says, he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I'm just like, it caught me off guard because, like,
wow.
Other than like
the bipolar.
Yeah, that was exactly what it was. And, like, looking back in retrospect, I'm thinking maybe he done that little pickup thing to see if he could handle me. You know what I'm saying? See if he could pick me up, maybe, you know, swing me around if he needed to. I'm thinking maybe that was like what he done to psychologically try to set all this up. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. That's just me looking back. But when he does this, it's really catching me off guard. So I'm just like, what the fuck? You know, it's really, you know, blowing my mind. And I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, if you don't get the fuck off me, I'm going to shoot you. And so I was able to scoot my way down off the stove. And then he kind of brings up his knee like he's going to knee me in the side. Well, I scoot my body to the side. He still hits me a little bit. And then he swings with his right arm. Well, when he swings, I can see it coming. He's got me. He's holding me with his left. I was able to lift my chin up just a little bit to where it kind of clipped the bottom of my chin. Well, when he does that, his force bringing him this way, he let go with the left hand. So we're right here. Like I told you, I stepped back. I'm literally in the corner, and I pulled out my weapon and I fired. And I thought at the time it was 2 shots. It turned out to actually be 3. Immediately after I fired, he dropped to the floor. So I'm just sitting there like, you know, adrenaline's fucking pumping. I'm like, holy shit. So I pick up the phone. I call 911, tell them what happened.
Berkeley County 911.
I have an emergency at 7 Decatur Drive.
Decatur, what's going on?
I had a friend of mine in my house. He come at me. He was striking me. I had to shoot him. He is down.
Okay,
you need to send some ambulance right now. Yes, ma'am.
How old is he?
He's 35, I believe.
Where did you shoot him?
I'm not really sure. He come at me, he hit me in the face, and I shot him in the chest 2 times.
Okay, is he breathing?
Right now he's breathing. Okay. Are you okay?
They're saying, you know, is he breathing? I'm like, he's making noises. I don't really know if he's breathing. I can't really tell. And she's like, you know, can you see the wounds? And I'm like, well, they're in his chest. Every one of them was center mass, like all in the chest area. There was nothing anywhere else. And that was what they taught you in the CWP class too. It's like, you know, when the threat is eliminated, then, you know, you have to stop legally because then there's no threat anymore. You can't like go up and keep shooting someone if they're on the ground. Then that changes from self-defense to murder.
Unless you're Grady Judd.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that guy?
I've heard that story, yeah. After all this happened, believe me, anybody that had any sort of self-defense or any kind of shooting claims like that, I researched the shit out of everybody because of what eventually comes to happen here. But so I call the 911 operator, and she's like, you know, can you get to a towel? And I'm like, yeah.
Have you got somebody on the way? Liam,
So
Liam, are you okay? Can you hear me? Liam, can you hear me? Liam, can you hear me? Liam. I shot him 2 times in the chest. He come after me. He was trying to hit me. He was trying to hurt me. I didn't have any choice but to fucking shoot him.
Can you get a clean towel and apply pressure?
A clean towel? Yeah. Yes, ma'am, I can. I'm sorry, I did not want to do this shit. He come after me, God damn it.
Is there anybody else in the house?
No, ma'am, it's just me and him. We've been here for a couple of hours.
How long ago did you just shoot him?
Yes, I just did it.
Okay, where is the gun right now?
It's sitting on the counter.
Okay, can you secure the gun So the officers get there?
Yes, ma'am. It's secured. It's unloaded.
And she said, so, get to the towel, put a towel over his wound. She said, we got an officer on the way. So I pull up the shirt and I only see 2 entrance wounds, which is why I thought, again, initially I only heard 2 shots, but I guess just everything, real quick. I just didn't hear the third one, but I only seen 2 entrance wounds. So that's why I only thought there was 2. I put the towel over him. I'm waiting. There's a 911 call online.
Is he still alive?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not now. At the time, he was breathing. He was making noises. Now, I don't know. I've heard people say that the noise was like what's constituted as like a death rattle.
When the officers get there, they're going to need you to come outside with your hands up, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
What's he doing right now? Is he still breathing okay?
Right now, he's not breathing.
You said he's not breathing?
He doesn't look like it. He's not breathing up and down.
Okay, can you get your face close to his and see if he is breathing? See if you can see him?
I'm right here in front of him. He's making noises. He's making noises.
Okay, so he is still talking?
No, he's not talking. He's just making noises. Liam, can you hear me, Liam? Liam, can you hear me? Liam, can you hear me? Liam, can you hear me, Liam? He's making noises, but he's not responsive.
Okay.
Like
Right.
gurgling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Something along those lines. But, I'm waiting for the guy to get there. He comes in and 911 person's like, make sure the gun is unloaded and, away from you. And when you get there, unlock the door. I'm like, well, the door's unlocked. They can just come right on in whenever they're here.
Okay, our officer's there. Can you step outside with your hands up?
Yes, ma'am. I can step outside.
Okay. Go ahead and do that. Just put the phone down.
All right. I mean, my phone's in my ear, but I'll step outside with my hands
Okay.
up.
All right, go ahead.
I'm outside with my hands up. He's in the kitchen.
So he comes in and he's like, all right, I got to place you and I'm going to put you in handcuffs. He said, I'm not placing you under arrest. He said, but I've just got to assess the situation.